Oh, come on, man.
Excuse me?
Hey, Martin.
Oh, hi, Bill.
How are
Hi.
you?
I'm very good. Let me put this somewhere where I hope I've got reception. And
No worries. Just I'm working on. I'm finishing up the. I think the last time we spoke, I told you I was working on a book, History of Light for the Artist,
oh yeah,
and so I'm on the very last chapter talking about publishing, and I'm trying to quantify the work of William Shakespeare
okay.
into something that
Mhm.
that kind of gives a different take a little bit on his work and kind of gives a nod to the anti-Stratforians, even though I'm very much in the camp of the Stratfordians. Um,
Okay.
but anyway,
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah. Well, that sounds a great project.
it's yeah it's been a passionate project for going on the last 7 years now.
Oh well.
An extraordinary amount of research, but we're here to talk about you, brother.
Okay.
I, so let me just start this way. I'm just gonna dive right in here with a quick introduction. We'll just get into the conversation. I
Uh-huh.
know it's evening over there, and your time's at a premium. On Friday, June 9th, Martin Barre, the legendary guitar player for the Penny Peeps and also Jethro Tull, performs the history of Jethro Tull at the Des Plaines Theater in Des Plaines, Illinois, a stone's throw north from Chicago. Martin Barre's website is martinbarre.com. So you're playing a set for one night only in June, and then you head east to the East Coast for some dates, right? And then did I see that you'll be returning to the Arcada in St. Charles in October, right?
Y- yes, we are. I mean, I'll have to go and get the date sheet to find exactly where we are.
Oh, wait, I'll
But
post all that so you don't have to worry
yeah,
about
but we're sort of dotted around Michigan and Illinois and
Yeah.
Massachusetts. We've got a good sprinkling of dates, and they're all in that northeast corner, and so that they're not too close, not too far.
Last time you were here, did you play the Arcada or
Oh,
did you play that other theater in Aurora?
I think it was the Okada.
Okay.
Mm, too many. I'm so confused with the last
Oh
two,
God, I
three
can
years.
imagine. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Sometimes I've got no idea when things happened and where they happened. Everything got turned on its head, and some things were so delayed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's. I almost would have to do a timeline
Yeah,
to
when I
over
could
those
definitely
years
yeah,
and
I was going to ask you
understand
because
what happened.
I remember telling you that I got a tour of the theater in Aurora by Steve Fossen,
Mhm.
the bass player from Heart, and he knew chapter and verse about the building. But I just had
All
a
right.
conversation with Leo Sayer, who was going to play the Arcada, and
Mhm.
I know so we've talked offline a little bit. I know that he really enjoyed the Arcada Theater and really loved
Yeah.
the house. So, and then John Ford Coley, who I spoke with back in March, played at the Des Plaines Theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I love theatres, and I think they're beautiful places, and you're lucky in the States that you've got them preserved and
yeah,
they're pretty well up and running and working.
yeah,
You've got to fight to keep them open. Here, it's a real battle
yeah,
to
yeah. And I
keep
think
these
I think it's.
theatres working and
Mhm.
surviving.
I think it's great that they're being revived for these
Mm.
classic rock shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But how are you, sir? How have you been?
Well, I'm very good. I've been working very, very, very hard on this new set we're going to play.
Yeah.
Probably 4 months of work, just writing arrangements, figuring things out,
Hmm.
and it sort of culminated in a week of dress rehearsal in a big studio room with the band, I'm relieved to say that everything I thought it would be came to fruition. It was there wasn't one failure. I mean, normally there's out of 30 songs, one will fail to work. But I'm pleased to say that they all sounded great, and the guys really enjoy playing it.
You keep pretty true to the original arrangements with some tweaks here and there to give it that Martin Barre flavor. Is that what we can expect from the show?
Yeah. You know, I still do that, and I don't do it on purpose. I just think everything can be fine tuned, and sometimes we're 30, 40 years down the line, and you know that they're, I wouldn't say updated, but sometimes you start from scratch and you get a perception of how this song will sound really good, whether it will sound better than the original or not. I don't know. That's for the fans to decide. Sometimes I like to add. There's nothing big in what I do. It's fine tuning, and I love sort of taking it apart, looking at the bones of what's there, putting it back again, and sometimes it goes back in a different way. It's like a big Lego set, but it'll if it works, then I'm happy with it, and usually they do.
But that's the strength of. We were just talking about Shakespeare before we began here a little bit, and that's the strength of solid material is the malleability and the ability to take a fresh look at it, right?
Yeah. I think they do that in ballet. That they do it with Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake, and not everybody wants it, but it's great. It's if you're broad-minded and sort of just have an open mind, it works fantastically well. And why shouldn't you do it? I just think the people, the composers, probably would have welcomed interpretation, because that's what they did themselves. They're always interpreting other people's work.
Yeah. I'm a theater guy, and I know theater best, and so a lot of those stage directions were either naturally omitted because of the evolving nature of the art form, or they were left off purposely for that very reason.
Yeah, I think so. And then you look at classical music, and if everybody played Beethoven's Seventh Symphony exactly the same, it'd be a dull world. But the fact that somebody's version is looked to be a lot better than somebody else's, or different, or I think that's really vital, because otherwise everything dies.
And I've heard a lot of the arrangements of the old or the earlier Tull stuff that you've done, and you kind of thread the line between that re-envisioning and trueness for those diehard fans that want to hear the hits.
Yeah, I rarely go too far.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to. I don't want to. I think Tull were guilty of doing it as well. I remember when we did a completely different version of Locomotive Breath, in the Tull days, and it completely changed. I think we were just so fed up with playing it, we turned it on its head, and then 4 years down the line, we realised how awful it was, and I thought, you know what, there's one way that song needs to be presented, and we had to go back to it. But it keeps us busy. It keeps the mind thriving.
Yeah, and it's
they're very honest.
And you're the artist, man. So if anybody gets to reinterpret or take a fresh a fresh look at work, it should be the artist. There are a couple questions I wanted to ask you, and then I'd love to get into a little bit of the history about Martin Barre as you come to Jethro Tull, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So I was going to start with Beethoven. You mentioned, but let me go here first. This week, I got to speak with two of my favorite artists, Frank Oral from Poi Dog Pondering, and you. You and I have spoken. I think this is our fourth conversation, our second long conversation. I've spoken with thousands of artists, Martin, and newsmakers on three different radio shows, a television show, and this program. And I was nervous this week. And I'm wondering, for all the shows and halls that Martin Barre has played, does that still happen to you?
Does what happened? The fact that
are you ever trepidatious or nervous about?
no, in a very positive way.
Okay.
I think that if you're not and you're blasé and it becomes a run of the mill pedantic job that you do, then that's not good. It wouldn't work for me. No, I'm always in anticipation. It's a nervous anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very positive one. So I'm never. I mean, the preparation I do is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got pages and pages and pages of arrangements. I've run this show myself probably every day for 3 months, and it's still not perfect. It never will be. But if you're a perfectionist, and I guess I am, that then it's like the carrot in front of the donkey. You never reach it, and for good reason you don't want to, because perfection doesn't exist. It's virtual. Because nobody and nothing is perfect. But yeah, I have a lot of fun, and I don't know. Every audience is a new audience. I want happy, noisy, satisfied audiences, and I never have expectations. I think every night I'm fighting to win the crowd, and I enjoy that. It's a very, very satisfying thing when it works, and thankfully it usually does.
I think in the era of artificial intelligence, those human imperfections might become the greatest blessings in our art. Those human characteristics and personalities that can only happen through imperfection, right?
Yeah, well, I think the fact that the people who are actually working on AI are scared of it, and I think the same. That they're producing something that will supersede everybody and everything, and we'll all become sort of second-class citizens. And it's a worrying thought.
Well, so many people, generations have come along now in which computers and artificial intelligence, as it was evolving, was ubiquitous in their lives. Some of us, you and me, and grew up at a time when before computers were ubiquitous. And this phrase keeps coming back to me in regards to this: garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, that's a famous saying. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of computers and the power they have, just as a search tool, and it's incredible. And really, you're replacing a very vulnerable parts of society where if you wanted a piece of information, it took you hours to get it, and
Yeah,
then
you
it
had to go to a library and
yeah,
spend all day
yeah,
looking it up. Yeah,
yeah, and then you might only have one take on it. I
yeah,
think it's amazing. I mean, I'm constantly exploring, and even down to we have got a big American fridge,
yeah.
and the power, whatever you call it, the control
Right, right.
plate, as I forget the right word for it, failed, and this guy was taking like 2 months to fix it. I
Oh,
went
geez.
online, I found one, it got delivered the next day, and then I went on YouTube and I found out how to install it, and I saved myself 2 months waiting for some repair guy to do it for me. It was
Yeah,
brilliant. And something goes wrong with your car, you can find out how to fix it. It's
yeah.
I think it takes the mystery out of a world that where mystery isn't always a good thing. It's I think in music as well. That people think it's special, but it should be for everybody. There should be no mystery to it. I think it should be.
Especially when it comes to a refrigerator full of food.
Well, that was one of the best things I've ever done. I felt on top of the world. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So you're also for hire um, for repair for refrigerators.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like doing odd jobs. I don't like to feel that, that I would be useless in a situation where everybody had to look after themselves. I mean, I wouldn't be very good, but I'd hate to be totally naive. It's I don't, it's just me, and I love so many things. There's so many things in life that I want to know about,
Yeah.
and I never did that. I never went to, I quit university, and I stopped learning everything but music for a long, long time.
Hmm.
But I read, and I love reading. I love history. I love geography, and that's information. But yeah, I'm hungry for information. I quite envy people who have
Well,
a degree in something special.
my new book, which is I said earlier, is almost completed. I like to think of it as the history of everything. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but it's called The History of Light for the Artist, and
Mm.
it talks about the ascending steps of culture in our society and how it's driven human cultural, political, and even physical evolution.
Hmm.
And it's I would love to get your thoughts on it at some point before I rush it off to an agent. But anyways,
Yeah.
so I also had a conversation with the great Kristen Pelletieri. Um, a little cocky. I thought I'd impress him with a bit of history of guitar shredding, and I invoked Django Reinhardt, and he mentioned this. And I know you're a fan of classical music. He brought up the earliest examples of shredding that he knew was, and we talked about this for a bit. Rondo Capriccio, Rage Over a Lost Penny, the great piano piece by Beethoven, which
Mm.
I was just astounded by. You grew up in a musical household. Um,
Not really. I mean, my granddad was a musician.
right.
My father wasn't able to be. He
Hmm.
financial circumstances
Hmm.
sent him in a different. He was in a factory at a very early age
Mm.
because his parents needed him to work. So he wanted to be a clarinetist, and he was never able to. So
Oh,
he supported me, and he loved big band jazz. And I mean, at the time when I started music, that I wasn't into that sort of music,
hmm.
but now I am. So he would have been pleased. But yeah, all my family love music. My wife, my kids. and that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I love music. I'm able to play a bit, but I chose to do that for a living rather than do something like my kids do or my
Yeah.
parents did.
So
It's a monk choice.
so did you come to classical music later in life?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you the very first time I like playing. I had flute lessons with the
Uh-huh.
uh, principal flautist of the Birmingham Symphony Orchestra.
And you used to play clarinet or yeah, clarinet or
I've got a
saxophone.
bass clarinet, but
That's right. That's right.
I can say I'm a flute player, but I can't say I'm a clarinetist. I'm way, and I played saxophone, but uh, not good enough to put it on my resume. But resume, sorry. Uh, yes, so I learnt the flute playing simple classical pieces, and that sort of kindled an interest. But it was Gentle Giant. We were touring with them, and
Hmm.
um, the two brothers, Phil, I can't remember, but they were music teachers, or one of them was, and they were really very intelligent people, and we're on a plane. Um, one of the days we go to the next gig, and he passed me this cassette, and he said, "You'll shed a tear." I'm going, oh, okay, right. What's he on about? And it was Enigma Variations,
Uh-huh.
and and that triggered an interest in. It just blossomed uh,
Wow.
to so many other discoveries, and of course, Nimrod's still one of my favourite pieces of music. It's very very well known.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and it just spread from there, and I just love melody. I love construction,
Indeed.
harmonization, dynamics, space,
Counterpoint. Yeah.
everything classical music has
Yeah.
that music doesn't necessarily have,
Yeah.
and I just wallow in it.
Any particular favorites?
Um, well, Elgar's my favourite. Maybe Symphony Number One would be
Uh-huh.
my very very favourite piece of music. But then Mozart clarinet
Of course.
concerto.
Yeah.
So much of Mozart, Handel, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, violin concerto, Brooks, violin
Hmm.
concerto, Brahms Symphony Number Four.
Hmm.
These are those would be amongst my favourites, and Elgar cello concerto, especially with Jacqueline Dupre. It's just beautiful, and about 2 months ago, I was having a cup of coffee in this sort of hippie bookshop, coffee shop, and they had some books for sale, something like a $2 each.
Uh-huh.
And there was a book on Elgar, and I picked it up, and I thought, I'm such a big fan of his music, and I
Yeah.
know nothing about his life or very little. So I bought it thinking I'd probably read a few odd pages and go in my library. But I read it from cover to cover because he had an amazing life, and the thing that really hit me was how he struggled financially to be a musician. He really struggled, even when he was at the top of his game, if you like. He was
Hmm.
writing coronation music, pomp and circumstance. He had great success, but of course, in his day, they made money from sheet music.
Right.
The, tiny bit of money from live concerts, but it was sheet music. It's amazing. What incredible life. He died when he was 76.
Wow. Wow.
That's my age.
I have to ask this then.
Mm.
Enigma, did did it bring you to tears?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it has many times because it's just a beautiful, moving piece of music, and
Hmm.
in some ways, I feel a bit protective. I'd
Yeah.
like to think that not many people know it, but the fact they use it in sort of very romantic movies. I mean, they use it as a tool to create to create that atmosphere. And I'm quite, yeah, I'm just a bit sort of jealous. I think, I don't want many people to know about it because it's so special.
That's called duende.
Oh
My
yeah,
wife was a competitive Latin dancer
oh
when
yeah,
we met,
yeah.
and so I was very and I just had this conversation with Frank Corral from Poi Dog Pondering about that very thing, about that upwelling of emotion. And
Mm.
so do you find that a lot in music of all kinds?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. More and more. And you talk about shredding. Well, me and my wife went to a flamenco group who were
Yeah.
playing close to us. Never heard of them, but it just said on the poster after their successful first trip to Exeter, Devon, that they were making a big return. And we got the last two tickets, completely sold out, 500 people. Uh,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I'm no flamenco, and it was the main person was really young guy, um, playing guitar, uh, incredibly played three or four pieces completely on his own on the stage, and
Uh-huh.
then some singers joined him, and then a dancer, and then a percussionist, and then a second guitar player. But the whole show, from the singing, the dancing, it was a most incredible um, collection of emotion coming
Yep.
off that. I mean, that you talk about a standing ovation. Uh, that they're sort of overrated, but in this case, and I rarely do it. Everybody stands up and go, oh, okay, yeah, it was good, but yeah, I'm still sat down.
Yeah.
Everybody got on their feet because these people had given so much. So it was the whole night was so intense and incredible. And he shredded that guitar, if you want to use that adjective. He was phenomenal.
The people, and I know this through my wife, even though I can't dance to save my life, but
No.
um, that community is so impassioned
Yes.
by that culture.
Yeah.
It's more than a dance. It
Oh,
truly
absolutely.
is a
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah, it's a lifetime of, and the interesting thing was that they're all on a par, so that this beautiful woman
Yeah.
dancing was the equal of the guitarist, and I imagine that her talent and what she'd gone through to get to her standard was the same. I don't think there was any difference at all, and the singing, that they all had, you had the feeling that they'd lived a life of what they did, and it showed. It was quite humbling.
That's
Quite
brilliant.
yeah.
That okay. So how about we delve a little bit into a bit of, and the train's going by here. Let's uh, let's delve a little bit into Martin Barre's history as it pertains to the reason for your upcoming show at the Des Plaines Theater, the history of Jethro Tull. We spoke a little bit about your dad. He bought you some jazz blues records, Wes
Yeah.
Montgomery
Mhm.
and Barney Kessel, with who has my favorite song in that whole genre, "Salute to Charlie Christian." Did
Uh,
did that take? Did you take any of that to heart at the
um,
time?
no, none of it.
Yeah,
None
yeah.
of it. I wanted to play. I wanted to play Eddie Cochran, Buddy Holly.
Okay,
I wasn't interested.
okay.
That's not why I bought a guitar,
Uh-huh.
because me and all my mates were listening to the American music coming across the
Yep.
Atlantic, and that we were young, and like kids today, I'm like my dad was. I
Yeah,
listen to
yeah.
the music they're listening to, and I despair. I have no connection with it at all. So I'm sure they'll prove me wrong. Um,
But that
but
was sort of
yeah,
that. Yeah, that was sort of the skiffle era,
yeah,
and the very early Beatles. Right?
yeah. I mean, I did enjoy. I'll tell a bit of a lie because I did listen to the albums,
Uh-huh.
and I like Kenny Burrell. I like
Yeah.
Jimmy Smith. Um, um, I can't, a lot of them don't. Frank Wes,
Hmm.
Roland Kirk. Wow, so many. I did enjoy the sound, and but I wanted melody,
Yeah.
and so uh,
What
so that it's mainstream jazz up I enjoyed, but
what
anything crazy I didn't like.
was there a guitarist that you heard and thought that's the sound I'm after, or that's the sound I want?
Um, yeah, Hank Marvin, but
Okay.
that's probably in the first 6 months of me being a musician. But
Uh-huh.
just because everybody wanted to be Hank Marvin, because he was the guy playing.
Uh-huh.
That there wasn't anybody else. So there wasn't much of a choice.
Yeah.
And even Dwayne Eddy, he had that sound, the twangs, the thang. Um, but we were naive. We didn't know how to produce a guitar sound. And then when Hendrix and Clapton started emulating the blues greats and getting sustain,
Hmm.
that the whole world changed. The whole,
Yeah.
that nobody played loud. No, nobody got sustain. The amps didn't do it. We didn't understand it. And then the blues boom changed everybody.
Yeah.
1968, really.
You
60, 68.
you seem to find that sound or that emerging sound with the song "Helen Doesn't Care" from the Penny Peeps, right?
I don't know. Well, yeah, the Penny Peeps. I've listened to some of that stuff, and yeah, yeah, we were all experimenting.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody knew how to do it, and Clapton did,
Hmm.
and then we listened to the Kings, BB King, Freddie King, Albert King, and had no idea how they got that sound,
Yeah.
and it was simple pentatonic, and maybe at first you sort of poo it,
Hmm.
uh, but then you realise that the note placement and the feel and the emotion behind that simplicity was so complex, and nobody could do it. None of the blues guitar players in England could touch them other than Clapton and Peter Green. There's maybe a handful that really understood it, but most of the guys were kidding themselves. So it turned me off it. I didn't want to be.
Hmm.
I didn't want to learn Albert King licks because everybody around me was playing them really badly, and it put me off. So I thought, well, it's great. Leave it alone. They've got it. They've perfected it. Just sort of be influenced by it or inspired by it, but don't copy it because you ain't going to get anywhere.
You so that band became Gethsemane. And then
Yes.
you were playing sets alongside the original or the first incarnation of Jethro Tull.
Mm-hmm.
When you got a chance to audition for the band,
Mm.
was that a destination where you're like, hey, Jethro Tull is where I want to be,
Mm.
or was it something else and then it just became a home to you?
No, no, I knew that job was mine,
Yeah.
and I can't explain why. But when I first saw them, that they were doing everything I ever wanted.
Uh-huh.
The flute was how I wanted to play. The guitar player was great. The music was exciting. It just thrilled me. and that was the band I wanted to be in. And obviously we didn't play the same music
Mm-hmm.
after I joined, but I don't think that was part of the equation. It was just that their attitude, they're such great stage presence,
Yeah.
great great performance.
Was Ian Anderson's stage presence as strong as it would prove later on in
No,
those? Yeah.
yeah, no. That people went to see Mick. Mick was the
Okay.
star of the show.
Okay.
He really was, and their big number was Cat Squirrel,
Uh-huh.
and then Ian was a sort of goofy singer who sort of messing around and
Yeah.
looked like he was a madman. And I mean, obviously it was important what he
Mm-hmm.
did, but I think musically he wasn't in the same league with
Yeah.
his flute playing definitely at that stage. It was very simplistic, and the sound was great. In fact, only me and Ian were playing flute in the Roland Kirk style
Uh-huh.
in the UK, because it was like an electric guitar. I mean, I played it the same way. I played electric guitar, and Ian played it because he realised early on he wasn't going to be a superstar guitar player, but he might be a superstar flute player. I mean, Ian knew
As
what
it
he
turned
was going
out.
to do 10 years before he did it.
Yeah. What
He was so far-reaching.
would I be wrong? So that first album sort of feels like this. It feels like Mick and Ian were were of kind of different worlds struggling to be inside the same body. Um,
Yeah, well, they were pulling in different directions.
yes.
Mick was pulling the crowd. Mick was pure blues.
Yeah.
Ian didn't want to play the blues, same as me. And Ian, I guess, wanted to be the star of the show. He needed
Mm-hmm.
because he wanted to write his songs, play
Mm-hmm.
his music. So yeah, it was destined to fail
Yeah.
because Mick didn't want to go where Ian wanted to go, and vice versa. So I stepped in and had I had no baggage. I just said, well, I play guitar and I
Yeah.
play flute, so I understand both instruments a bit, and I'm ready to go wherever wherever you want to lead us. And yeah, I was so excited.
And I think you were probably of the mind to be part of a team as opposed to a competing personality, which I think made that first album
Mm.
maybe a little bit unfocused.
Yeah, we all enjoyed what we were doing,
Yeah, yeah,
it was naive, but I remember that the guys I'm playing in, doing solos in the studio, and they're really behind me
yeah,
100%. It wasn't like, oh, they're going to have a cup of coffee while you go and do your guitar solo. But all of them were part of it.
uh-huh,
It was a really exciting time because we're all finding our feet. But I was excited about what Clive was doing. Clive was excited about what Glenn was doing. It was a real
uh,
team, a real
but
team.
but that first audition didn't go well, did it?
No, but yeah, um, it was more technically
Yeah,
horrible. I didn't have the right guitar. I had to borrow one eventually. It was the guitar I had was feeding back and screaming, and playing in front of a room full of guitar players
yeah.
wasn't my cup of tea.
But they
Still,
saw they saw something in you to give you a second audition, right?
well, it was me who did it. I
Okay.
just thought, if I had done my best and not got it, I
Yeah.
could have accepted that. But I knew I had a lot more in me,
Yeah.
and I felt I hadn't given it a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
So something made me call Ian up to see how it was going, and I didn't know what I was going to. I wasn't expecting anything particularly, but he said, "Oh, by coincidence." it's not working out with Tony Iommi. I said, well, look, I really would like another go. I didn't play well. The guitar I had wasn't the right instrument. The environment was horrible. And he said, yeah, sure. And that's the second time round was the opposite.
But I've talked to so many band members who have either brought somebody in or have joined an organization, and there's a symbiosis that's necessary for that algorithm to work, right?
Mm.
And Tony Iommi went off to play with Black Sabbath. And you were, as it turns out, the perfect fit for Jethro Tull.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have any preconception, and I didn't realize that. But and whether Ian saw that or not, I don't know. I mean, a conversation I haven't had with him, but yeah, I mean, nobody knew each other, and I was a bit in awe of being in one of the biggest bands in the UK. So, I was scared then, really nervous. But because everything changed together, it wasn't, the music changed.
Yeah.
So I was being auditioned, but so was Ian's music being auditioned. And the change of direction was being auditioned, and people didn't particularly like it. It took a few weeks for people to sort of decide that, yeah, okay, this is good. We've lost the blues band, but we've got something else in its place that works. So it was, all our necks were on the line.
Yeah,
and that's what made it great, because I feel like I've always been a part of it. And you can say, well, the first album was, but to me that was the Jethro Tull blues band.
Right.
Jethro Tull wasn't the same concept at all. So and then coming to America was a big first step for all of us. So I'm so pleased that I was in it at the beginning.
Kind of a testing ground. Was stand up? Was it the nervousness and the anxiety that you guys maybe all felt, or that hunger that you all felt, that made stand up such a strong and cohesive album?
Yeah, I can't remember, but it was so exciting to record.
Yeah.
Every track was a challenge, and for that time in 69, it was groundbreaking. But people weren't writing songs and playing riffs and doing things like that. Nobody was doing it, so we were going into unknown territory. But it was, we had a great fun.
Yeah.
Really good fun, and we really liked what we were doing. We really believed in it. It was a total commitment, and it could have fallen completely on its face.
So we talked about before about collaborative management for a band leader, and Ian was always the, I guess, the undisputed leader of the band, right? So you hit the ground running on stand up with your guitar open. Your guitar opens the album with New Day Yesterday. Did you have much input in the guitar track or the writing of the guitar part, or was that all Ian? How did that work?
The songs were the guitar parts, because there's no keyboards. But then the solos were very much part of the music. So, we used to know the solos, sort of crazy wah-wah stuff with wrong notes in.
But all very structured.
Yeah, it became part of the music. So yes and no. No, I didn't write any songs at all. But the fact that I was a part of it. We're all a big part of it.
Of course.
And yeah, there was no question of territorial rights or ownership.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all in there doing our job, and nobody was treading on anybody's toes. There's room for all of us to play a lot of music, and
Was there a certain security in Ian being that undisputed band leader?
no, it was a natural. He knew what
Uh-huh.
he wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
He was writing the music, and I didn't want to be the band leader. Neither did Glenn or Clive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I think the record company and the agency nurtured his image,
Sure.
obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
big time, and I think.
And he was so demonstrative on stage.
Yeah, I mean,
That's kind of
it
there. Yeah.
was the centre.
The brand.
It would have been quite a bland, um, not ordinary, but it would have been a different beast, and it would have
Yeah.
just been very much another prog band in the making. But yeah, I mean, his on-stage personality was a
Mm-hmm.
huge part of the success. But the music carried it through.
Yeah.
You can have somebody crazy like a Tiny Tim, or can't think of anybody else, but something with a big image.
Yeah.
But okay, that gets your attention.
Yeah.
Now what have you got? And if you don't have much, then it doesn't last. You go, oh yeah. But nobody. I think the where it started rubbing was when the record company made the image more important than it should have been. So it became overbearing. That
Mm-hmm.
it was the guy on one leg with the flute, and that was Jethro Tull, and that's why
Yeah.
through the whole era of Jethro Tull is actually the name of a band, not of the guy playing the flute. And
Indeed.
Ian was always called Mr. Tull, and hey, where's Jethro? It was quite annoying, and the joke fell flat fairly quickly. But
But
then people, educated that they came to shows and realised it was more than that.
yeah, yeah, but then, as you said, at the end of the day, it's up to the individual musicians uh, to bring it, right?
Yeah, but you don't want four people going crazy. I mean, some bands are
Of
like
course, of course. Well, I'm,
that.
I'm thinking
You
I'm
don't
thinking
want
of
four
songs like,
people
uh,
upstaging each other. And
yeah,
I mean, it did get to the point where we were all jumping about like lunatics,
hmm
but the music suffered, and we started listening to recordings of the show,
hmm
and we realised that you can jump about singing, but you can't jump about the way we were playing guitars and basses because it wasn't sounding good. So
yeah.
we had to sort of reassess what we were doing. But it's a journey you make, and it became very theatrical. Then it
hmm
became very musical. Then there was a mixture. It was always push and pull between music and theatre,
Yeah.
and there's a compromise all the time.
Well, the reason I ask that is because Fat Man opens, and I know how passionate you are about the mandolin,
Mm.
and Fat Man opens with this Middle Eastern flavored mandolin. Did I hear steel guitar under that as well?
On my recording of it,
Okay.
uh, no, I've used. I've got to think about that. See, we've played Fat Man on stage, but it's
Yeah.
mandolin. I play flute. No, there's not a steel guitar on the record. It's
hmm
just mandolin and flute. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you play that so vibrant and aggressively
Mm.
that I think that just underscores that even if the notes and melodies are written for you, that at some point um, you're going to be there in that piece of music.
Yeah, well, the music lends it's so strong that it
Yeah.
lends itself to a lot of interpretation. So, I mean, I've done Fat Man as a piece of rock music, and it really worked. Uh, um, Essentially, a good song can give you a lot because the strength in the melody, the chord structure,
Uh-huh.
gives you the building blocks to do something with it. And that's what I've always done
Yeah.
occasionally.
Yeah. We're going to march through a couple of years of Jethro Tull here. Not too many, but just to give people a great flavor of the history of the band. In 1970, the band released Benefit. It opens strongly with this song, You There to Help, with You There to Help Me." Um,
Mm.
it was a bit of a darker album for the band than Stand Up. Do you think the album was a bit over people's heads, including critics? Is that why it failed kind of to
No,
achieve the desired
it
impact?
wasn't. It wasn't the aim. I don't think so. I think it
Yeah.
was a stronger version of Stand Up,
Yeah,
and
oh, I agree. Totally agree.
better playing and still great songs. But
Yep.
I think it was a really strong album.
Yeah.
I think that told people that we weren't a one-trick pony, and it was more in the tank.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of my favourite albums. When we went in to record it was a really strong, positive atmosphere doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
I can't fault it.
you guys seem to no, and I don't mean to give that impression. You guys seem to
No,
learn
I'm not, no.
some sort of critical marketing skills teacher, which later emerged as the hit off the album, was
Yeah,
originally released as the B-side to Witch's Promise, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But the market in England was different. It was
yeah,
top
yeah,
20 pop. But
uh-huh,
there are a lot of people like Cream and Hendrix and Fleetwood Mac were getting in the charts, and it was
yeah,
sort of a crossover market. So um, Teacher wouldn't have worked. It's a bit too mainstream rock. Yeah, it was but in America, different tastes,
yeah.
different
The
time.
the UK version is very different
Yeah,
from the US
yeah,
release.
yeah.
What was the motivation or the discussion about re-recording that song for the two separate markets?
I've got no idea.
Okay.
I cannot remember. Um, no, I don't know. I've got no idea.
Okay, okay. It's
No.
it's interesting to hear both of them side by side,
Yeah.
but a great song either way. And then 1971, we all know that one. Aqualung was released, a seminal
Mm,
work from Jethro Tull. Essentially, your Led Zeppelin 4, right? Which
mm.
originally found mixed reviews from the critics, and we'll talk about the critics here in a bit, but any enduring memories from the recording of that album?
Well, yeah, it was a difficult album to make. I think we had a lot of pressure on us.
Yeah.
We had two big albums. We were doing big tours in America. The next album had to take us a step forward,
Yeah.
and it was asking a lot of anybody. So
And you took it a leap forward.
our lifestyle had changed, so we weren't under the same sort of regime um, of work ethic. It was difficult. Beset with problems,
Yeah.
technical problems, playing problems. Um, but again, the songs push through, and sometimes it proves that even when there's negative vibes going on in a studio, you can turn them into something good. And I think albums that we thought were going to be amazing and they were great fun turned out to be not so popular. They didn't have an edge,
Hmm.
and like had a sort of angry, bit of an anger and angst, had an edge to it, and that shows.
Did you guys realize the iconic nature that that album would hold when you recorded or when you mixed it? When you went back and listened to it and the strength of that album, man.
No, no,
Really?
it was a relief to finish it.
Okay.
Um, no, I mean, we had no presumption ever
Yeah.
of anything we ever did. There was no presumption. Wow, this is going to be amazing. No, it's a volatile market. It
Yeah.
has been since we've been around. It's
Especially then, 1971 and 1972 saw an incredible number of truly classic albums.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of competition. Bands, that I think bands started finding that they're all fighting for the same audience and the
Yeah.
same sales. Yeah, it was super competitive. But
Well, I think so. I think this also because Carrie Kendall and I did when we were doing the radio show, we did a piece on 1970 71 and how that that year changed in rock music, and there were so many divergent styles of music that came out, their own flavor that came out of sort of this 60s milieu where people weren't, were sort of um you know I guess there was more social consciousness, and it was more settled as opposed to the anger and angst of the 60s that that allowed for that stronger focus on creativity. Am I kind of overthinking that a little bit?
uh, there's a lot of pretension, and
Yeah, yeah.
certainly by the time we were doing Thick as a Brick, it was we were mocking the pretentious rock star bands that were going
Uh-huh.
taking themselves ridiculously seriously. I mean, we just laughed at it all, and we wanted to laugh at ourselves, and you know, we could never take ourselves that seriously.
Yeah.
Um, and amazingly, people picked up on it, and they thought, yeah, you're right. That there's a there's a market for all the sort of tight pants and long hair and screaming guitar solos and screaming voices, but
Huh.
it's nice to have something different as well going along.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we were very isolated, and we always were
Hmm.
in 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 our style, and so we were very niche in the music industry. There was nobody compatible, and that worked for us. We there was competition, but yet there wasn't, and maybe
Yeah.
nobody wanted to
Yeah.
do what we were doing, but we were taking risks, and other people weren't. It was that they were going formula, and we were, looking ahead of that era into the 70s and the 80s. We were taking big steps to just to keep things fresh and moving along, and just um, taking music wherever it led us.
Yeah. Are you surprised that that album um, held up as well as it does to this day?
Um,
And I'm thinking of
I,
songs like My God,
yeah.
and and then
Well,
I've got a follow-up question to that in a moment.
yeah. Well, the answer is I don't analyze things
Okay.
the way that you might, or
Yeah, yeah,
somebody listening as a listener.
yeah.
But all I can say is when I went to do the Aqualung show and play it from beginning to end,
Hmm.
it was a very strong album to do. I mean,
Oh
normally
yeah.
most albums have a stinker or something, that you want to avoid, but it worked. every track worked. So
Yeah.
I have huge respect for it. But I've never analysed stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's not my job.
I uh, I'll end it here, and then I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions for
Okay.
a couple of friends and musicians that I've spoken with, young musicians, about some lessons learned in marketing. But uh, let me ask this: you said that you were just relieved to be done with the album. When I finish writing a novel or a book, I am first. I'm heartbroken because I'm saying goodbye to characters that I
Yeah.
spent a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years with, and and then I know I'm never going to see them again, right? I'm never going to follow their journey again,
Mm.
and then I'm just exhausted. Is that how it was after, especially Aqualung?
No, because every album
Yeah,
was the catalyst for a whole string of tours.
yeah.
So you mixed it, you planned the tours for
Hmm.
its release, and then you're promoting it. it no, there was no breathing space, and the one fed the other.
Yeah,
The
you
album
guys were
fed
cranking
the
them
tour,
out, man.
the tour fed the next album.
Yeah,
It was a continuous cycle.
yeah, year after year. So sometimes in the course of a year. I think was it Thick as a Brick was maybe 10 or 11 months after Aqualung, right?
Oh, I believe you. Yeah, I mean, I looked at. We were releasing an album a year
Yeah.
or for a long time. I mean, I was looking at it. I think when I was doing the 50 years of Tull, I was looking
Uh-huh.
at the release dates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. We just worked 12 months of the year every year.
So 74, that creative powerhouse continues year after year. But that year it was War Child, which spawned two iconic singles, Skating Away on the Thin Ice of a New Day and Bungle in the Jungle. And again, the critics hated it. But on that particular album, they seem to have dragged down the uh, sales with Critical Voices, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the strongest of
Yeah,
albums
yeah.
in retrospect, but we never. It's impossible to be that consistent. You've got to
Yeah.
have that don't perform as well. You've got to have highs and lows. I think every artist on the planet has gone through that.
But it seems to me that the biggest issue with Jethro Tull was the army of naysaying critics, and not your audience. Your audience was loyal as can be. They're still loyal uh, to the sound and to each of you as soloists. But so I guess I'll end that part of this conversation here and say, how does it feel to outlive all those critics?
Yeah, well, we never took it to heart.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
supposedly, historically, we did. Most of that Jethro Tull at war with the critics was a manufactured promo stunt from the record company.
yeah.
And to be honest, if you our mantra was if you believe that the bad reviews, uh, sorry, if you can't believe the good reviews
Yep,
and,
yep.
and ignore the bad reviews, they're all the same. So everybody, it didn't bother us. It bounced off us completely. We had a lot of self belief, and it would have taken. We're a lot stronger
Yeah.
than being hurt and upset by a critic who didn't like our
Hmm.
music. And I think that's true of most musicians and artists.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a pat on the back, but then if you get a stinker, well, you've got to read it and try and learn from it if there's something to learn.
If there's some merit to it, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, if it's constructive, yeah, you have to believe both sides. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't take either one seriously. If you just believe all the good ones, you become a huge ego monster.
But I think it says a lot for you guys that you were confident enough in your brand and in your vision, that you weren't bouncing around trying to appeal or appease the critics.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
no. I mean, it's impossible to
yeah,
because no. I mean, who you appeasing? Which
yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah,
Which one
yeah,
are you going to say that's what we need to do?
yeah.
No, we totally ignored it. The press didn't think so, but the record company put it out that we were almost going to retire because
Yeah.
of it. Rubbish.
Yeah, you've been wonderfully
Afraid.
gracious with your time. So I'm gonna follow up here very quickly. I've had a
Mm.
number of young artists on this podcast. I'd love a bit of wisdom because I view you as sort of a teacher, as well. Um, and so I'd love to get a little bit of wisdom about marketing and the modern music business. You told Guitar Magazine back in 2021 it's no longer viable to have an engineer and pay him $200 an hour because at the end of it, you'll probably get paid $2 an hour. Selling CDs and such, it doesn't work anymore. Uh, how do you make money in the music business, Martin
You're
Barre?
asking me. Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. Um, we sell CDs
Okay.
because our market is of a generation where they want to hold something that actually has music on it,
Mhm.
and same.
Well, so first of all, I'd say you have to put out great music, and all of your solo CDs are exemplary. And Road Less Traveled is one of my all-time favorite albums.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's the end result.
Yeah.
It's the tangible end result to what I do. I write music, I arrange it, I record it, I have people come in, and that's the end result. I want an end result. I don't want a downloadable link to be what I show people.
Yeah, yeah.
Is what I've done. I'm just of a generation where I want to look at something, I want to hold something,
Hmm.
a vinyl, and I buy other people's CDs. I mean, it's a disappearing marker, but I'm going to hang on to it as long as I can. And we do serious marketing,
Hmm.
t-shirts, hats, just things that are good quality. I'm always. I don't want to cheat people. I mean, I don't.
Hmm.
But everything I do has to be the best, and as long as that's your doctrine, then it's fine. But how to make, it's bits from here and there. Some from touring, some from merchandising, some
Hmm.
from online CD sales, and then publishing a little bit here. That there's no one cash cow.
Yeah.
It's it all comes in small amounts from a lot of different sources, and I have no idea how to make money
All
as a
right.
musician. I have
Uh,
no idea. I know young kids who don't make any money at all. They go on tour,
mhm.
and I ask them, "How do you do it?" We don't. We lose money. I say, how does it work? Well, we try and sell enough T-shirts to pay for the touring. I mean, it's dreadful.
Yeah, I was talking with Frank Corral from Point Out Pondering. Before they started busking on the street in Waikiki, in Hawaii, and then just decided they were going to sell everything and tool around the United States in a beat up old van and a rusting old Mustang, and slowly made their way, and through some fortuitous friendships, they got a record deal, and then kind of marched that on up. But they were talking about sleeping in the van like sardines, and making $17 a day, and hustling for coffee and change, and but so I think there's a dedication that comes along with being a musician, right? That you need to, and any art really, because if you think you're going to get rich doing anything artistic, then you're in it for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah, well, there's no easy money.
Yeah,
But there is,
yeah,
but it's not what a musician does.
yeah,
Yeah, nothing's changed. We were
yeah.
sleeping in vans in the 1960s. It's just what but you do it because you love it,
Indeed.
and you don't take it too seriously.
I spoke with this young man from Houston, Texas, Clay Melton, who has something of a Joe Bonamassa power and style to him, in his emerging style. He's learned the blues progressions and invokes names like B.B. King and Robin Trower as inspiration. What advice would you give Clay about surviving or having a long, successful career in music? And maybe we just did.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's no magic formula,
Yeah.
and I would hate to tell somebody it's a territory that I don't know. I really don't know. I'm struggling. I'm
Okay.
struggling to get to the next level. I'm
Uh-huh.
not a successful musician because if I play to 500 people, I want to play to 1,000 people a night. I
Sure.
play to 1,000 people a night. I want to play to 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in exactly the same boat. Um, Maybe I've got a style that's mine, but I've got no idea how I got it or why I have it. It's just years and years and years of playing, and then a style emerges from
Mm-hmm.
all of that music. I don't think you can adopt a style in a short period and
Yeah.
be recognizable.
Yeah.
Same as Joe Bonamassa, he's sort of recognizable now.
Yeah.
For years he wasn't.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
for years and years. Yeah.
And there's a lot of players. I mean, Jeff Beck is recognisable, was,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it's a long process. I don't have any advice because I'm in the same boat, and they might say, well, no, I'm a successful musician, but no, I'm a working musician. I have to pay a band and crew. I have to get airfares. I have to find hotels within a budget because we play in
Yeah.
New York. We can't afford to stay in New York,
Yeah. Nobody can
and so
nobody can
am I
afford to stay in New
successful?
York.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not. No, I'm not because I'd like to do the gig in New
Yeah.
York at Sony Hall and stay across the road in the Marriott,
Yeah.
and and I can't afford $450 a night for a hotel
Oh
room.
God.
So
Yeah.
no, I'd like to know as well. I,
Maybe
I,
maybe
I
maybe
want to
the
add
best
some
advice
guests.
is maybe the best advice is stay hungry but have something to eat.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
If there was a formula that then everybody would do it, and
Yeah.
would be in a perfect world. But
Well,
no, I don't
if
know.
you remember during COVID, so we were talking on the radio show. We stayed on the air. We were talking theater every week, even though all the theaters were closed. But then through that, some theaters began to innovate, and so we would talk about those innovations. And so I think there's an importance in, even if there isn't one answer, even if there isn't an obvious answer, that people keep talking about what works for them, what they're attempting, what they're trying, and hopefully somebody will pick up on some aspect of that, and it'll work for him, right? Maybe.
I don't know the answers. I do
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
do. I
yeah,
do what I do for better or worse, and I don't want to change because
yeah.
um, I like what I do.
Indeed.
Somebody said I mean, a lot of people say you should do a blues album. I don't want to do a blues album. And they say, well, you'll make a huge amount of money. Look at Joe Bonamassa. Well, I don't sing and I don't want to play the blues.
Well, I would argue, based on our previous conversations, Martin, that everything you do is somewhat of a blues album.
But yeah, the blues is in everything.
That's right.
But a pure. I'm not a
Yeah, yeah.
Wayne Shepherd or all those.
Savoy Brown. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's. I want a broader scope.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to change.
And I would argue that you shouldn't, brother. On Friday, June 9th, Martin Barre, the legendary guitar player for the Penny Peeps, but also Jethro Tull, performs the history of Jethro Tull at the Des Plaines Theater in Des Plaines, Illinois, which again is just a stone's throw from Chicago and where I live. Martin's
Cool.
website, and it's almost on my birthday, man. Martin's website is martinbarre.com, and I will post links to that and the tour in the notes below. Absolutely brilliant as always, mate.
All right, you're
Thank
welcome.
you again for taking the time out of your evening, and please give
Pleasure.
my
And
apologies for holding you a little bit too long to your
I'll tell
wife.
my wife.
There you go. All right, brother.
Okay.
Cheers,
You
mate.
take care.
You too. Be well.
A great library, like a great bookstore, can open your eyes to a universe of mysteries, fantastic journeys, and epic adventures. When you open that door, like life, it's impossible to know what awaits. I'm Lindsay Schultz, owner of the Spine Bookshop, author and book dragon, and keeper of the banned Book Brigade. I can ship the latest titles in your favorite genre anywhere in the continental U.S. with discounts for veterans, teachers, first responders, and librarians, and so much more. Or stop in at my shop, 244 South Lowry Street, Smyrna, Tennessee, for tea and coffee, to browse and chat. Or visit us online at thespinebookshop.com. Or call 615-768-9833. Illuminate your mind. The Spine Bookshop. We match books to people. Thespinebookshop.com.
Hey, folks. Before we go, Lindsay and I are asking for a little bit of help. We both care deeply about books. Lindsay and I became friends over her work fighting against book bans in her home state of Tennessee. We've written a play about book bans titled "This Play Might Offend You," and we want to bring it to the stage. This play will get national attention. We also want this play to be free. We want to make a difference in this space. Lindsay and I also understand that everyone is coming up a little bit short these days. If that's you, no worries. And we hope things turn around for everyone soon. That's a big reason why we began, well, actually, in the first place. In that case, we hope that you would please share the show and the link to our fundraiser. So we booked a theater and just need to pay for it. Not a lot, but more than two working class mooks can shoulder alone. At the end of this message and in the notes, I have posted a link to our GoFundMe. If you can spare a couple of dollars, it's greatly appreciated. If you can't, again, please share the link. Thank you. From Lindsay and me. Stupid, stupid.